I have spent hundreds of hours studying how developers design bosses and enemies in Elden Ring, Dark Souls series, Sekiro, Night Rain, Lies of P, and more. I've spent hundreds more hours coaching my dad through his first video game playthrough ever, which was Dark Souls, and now Elden Ring. I know the combat systems of these games, and today I am going to break down everything bosses and enemies will throw at you from a developer's perspective. You will finish this video and first try every single boss in every single game you will ever play. That is my personal and legally binding guarantee. Know your enemy. Over 2,000 years ago, Sun Tzu dropped the banger line, "If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles." He later finished Dark Souls and just shortened his phrasing to "get good." Essentially, enemy attacks are put into three categories: standard, area of effect, or AoE, and grabs. And that's it. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. No, I'm just kidding. What started out as very simple concepts over time became very complicated. And so today we're going to break down each of them individually and then what game-breaking mechanics developers have provided players with to absolutely trivialize them. How the boss chooses its attacks. We're going to get into the specific attacks, but before an attack even happens, there's something going on in the boss's AI that is hidden from the player. A good way to visualize what's happening is through what's called a behavior tree. Notice how this detector enemy in this demo is set to patrol, which can branch to move to patrol location. It reaches said location and waits. Once it has detected the player, it can access the new branch, has target, and can now access move to again, but with the target now being the player, so it can follow the player around. This is the system in which NPCs and enemies select their actions. A boss cannot access a certain behavior unless the prerequisites have been completed that allow it to access that branch. This can be based on a player's distance to the boss, like a leaping stab to close that distance, whether the boss has reached a certain health threshold, like this Erdtree avatar attack, only done when below half health, or whether an attack that leads into it has been completed, like this sword slam down, is the only attack that can lead into this jump attack. I say can because some attacks have multiple branches that it can choose as a follow-up. Notice here, the slam attack happens, but due to the player's distance, a different action is chosen. Or here, when the player's position behind the enemy causes it not to select any follow-up action at all. This all seems and is very complicated. So what's the game-breaking mechanic that you as a player can use to trivialize this? Well, all this complicated web of behavior is heavily influenced by you, the player. So dumb it down. A memorable early game boss in modern gaming is Margit. When positioned close and behind him, he will almost always do a tail swing, which I can depend on to use a jump attack to both avoid the tail and deal some damage of my own. I try to do this as much as I can to limit the boss's behavior tree. Same thing for the Erdtree avatar, where perpetually strafing and rolling to the side means the boss is locked into the same handful of attacks I have absolutely downloaded the punish for. Understand when and why bosses do what they do, and if you can, dumb it down. I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear one who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. But as we get good, let's look good as well. I've been wearing Project Orochi for a year now, and I love wearing sick Elden Ring shirts without looking cringy, and there's this like, if you know type of look to it. They have styles for all sorts of games we love, like Dark Souls. It's a fashion brand by players for players. The quality of the clothes is superb. You really should check them out. You can use promo code BABE1, BABE2 at checkout to save 10%. And remember, they have free shipping in the US. Thanks to Project Orochi for sponsoring us. And now back to the video. Player opportunities. So now that we understand how bosses and enemies choose their attacks, we can understand something that, when implemented almost eliminates all the frustration that people have with combat in these games. Essentially, if a boss is just constantly coming at you and you're defending and trying to dodge and roll, and when is your chance to attack or even heal? Well, first off, you can't just heal or attack randomly. That'll get you killed, Dad. On certain attacks, developers intentionally place little windows of time after the animation is finished. That is your opportunity. These can be on standalone attacks, or they can be after a series of attacks known as a combo, in which your opening is placed on the final attack of the combo. Or they can be earned by successfully dealing with a particularly daunting attack. Rookie players will take damage at the start of a combo, panic heal, and not understand why they still died or got hit out of the healing animation altogether. Or even more common is a player doesn't account that not all openings are created equal. Some are much shorter than others. As bosses and enemies get tougher, you can't heal and attack safely within the same opening, let alone the true greed of getting hit, healing, and then attacking on top of it. You don't get to do everything. What makes these games so addicting is every boss has their own rhythm and timings of openings and attacks that you get to master. If every boss could just be beaten to death with attacking and healing as you see fit, you'd get bored very fast. Unless you play a strength build, turn your brain off, big poise, bigger bonk, and just stagger the boss till they die. I mean, I do respect that, but honestly, strength builds also in late game need to actually understand how bosses work. I'm sorry. So to recap, simply understanding how bosses and enemies select their attacks, and then looking out consciously for those openings intentionally placed by developers will allow you to get much better at the game, reduce frustration, and simply enjoy the combat. All right, that's the foundation that the entire combat system is built on. So now we can start getting into this specific attacks and how you can absolutely just bitch slap them out of your way like they mean nothing to you. Starting with standard attacks. These are swords, spears, your abuelitas chancla, melee weapons that do damage when they hit you. It's that simple. Or is it? What you're seeing is one of the first lies that developers told players. You did get hit, you suck, but the game has mercy on you. In most games, when you use evasive maneuvers, it's not just to get out of the way. No, it actually makes you entirely invincible to many attacks. Newer players don't understand that what I just said is the most game-breaking mechanic in all of Souls. You, as the player, can literally yeet yourself through an incoming attack or even through an explosion, and as long as you are within the set amount of time that the game gives you invincibility, you take no damage. As difficult and challenging as these games are, you are the most busted thing in the entire thing. Now, obviously, rolling is a very good tool to avoid standard attacks, but it does take time to recover from a roll. You have to use stamina, usually, to perform one. And third, many games actually give you very little time of invulnerability called iframes. Beyond that, as players got more adept at simply pressing the roll button to put their games on easy mode, developers started adding an additional layer to the mix. Where did you roll? Not just when did you roll, where did you roll? Let me show you something from Elden Ring Night Rain that was posted by a good friend of mine. Now to finish, he gains access to a flurry attack. The range of his weapon is massively increased, and it can be really terrifying when the attack first comes out if you're a pussy. But they built in a fatal flaw that you can see on the event graph. They put in a similar flaw to allow you to avoid Melania's waterfowl dance in the base game, actually. So the function set turn speed does exactly what you think it does. It's what determines how quickly Fulgor can rotate to reach his target. You'll notice at the start of a sequence, his turn speed is set to 250. This allows him to track the player. This is where all you need to do is get behind him, because after that, the majority of the attack sequence has his turn speed set to 0. You'll notice he's just blindly swinging as the player stands behind him. Once he finishes that segment of the attack, his turn speed is again set high enough for him to reacquire the player, and then again it's dropped to 0 once he starts swinging. The last thing you want to do is rolling away and stay in front of him, The swings come out in a quick enough succession that you simply don't have the iframes to avoid damage. So there's a super nerdy way of explaining just roll behind him. But I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for the help, buddy. So essentially, certain bosses have attacks that have a frequency to them that you do not have the capacity to spam roll out of. So the direction you roll and the position you're in becomes your method for avoiding damage, not just when you press the button. So we've talked a lot about avoiding damage, but what about absorbing it? The obvious answer would be to use a shield, which is great for certain attacks, but its lack of universal utility, high stamina cost, and easily circumvented defense makes it more of a niche tool. Now, the Psychopath's method for handling standard attacks is called a parry and subsequent riposte. This is an optional technique that is very high risk and very high reward. Souls games are trying to emulate a very common tactic used in swordplay, where instead of avoiding an enemy's oncoming attack, you deflect in a direction that opens their defense and then allows you easy access for a critical attack. Most commonly in gaming though, you'll see it much more exaggerated using a shield, where if you time it right, enemies just completely flail open for a critical attack. The challenge with this system is it can be difficult and sometimes downright mind-boggling to know when and if certain enemies can be parried. Like a giant golden knight on a horse swinging a dragon tooth, surely this is not flick of the wrist, apparently. And even when you know the parry's possible, it can be challenging to know when that parry timing really is. In gaming, a parry is a set timing window baked into an enemy's animation. A good example is this combo from Elden Ring's DLC. You'll see 6 different parry opportunities throughout this entire combo, each opportunity lasting only a single frame. So what the hell? Does that mean I have 1 frame to perfectly time my parry? No, sir. The player inputs a parry, the character performs the animation, and the game allots you a set amount of active parry frames. And if you've timed those to overlap with that 1 frame opportunity baked into the boss, then you get a parry. You can extend those active frames available to you by using different shields or the size of the parry detector. Also, game developers can make bosses more beginner-friendly by extending the window a boss is susceptible to being parried, sometimes up to 3 frames instead of 1. So those timings are very specific and can sometimes be very inconsistent. Sometimes they're at the beginning of a swing, and sometimes they are when the boss's hand reaches you. It's different for each game, each boss, and sometimes each attack. I don't parry because it pisses me off, but some lunatics out there, many of you, enjoy the rush of just dying over and over, risking their lives to figure out what are those timings, and it can be very rewarding. So that's parrying. But what about games like Sekiro, Lies of P, etc.? They don't use parrying to absorb damage. They use a system called deflect, perfect guard, whatever you want to call it. This is a system where you perfect guard an enemy's relentless attacks until they tire themselves out, opening themselves up for a critical attack. Instead of a specific timing baked into the enemy's animation, the timing to get a deflect is based on when your character model overlaps with an active hitbox relative to when you input the deflect. If you press the input within a range of 0.15 to 0.2 seconds, depending on the game, before your character takes damage, then the game registers a deflect. If you press the button too late, you didn't even put your guard up, and you take full damage. If you press it too early, your deflect frames pass, and you simply guard the attack. And no, none of this means that you can just simply spam the deflect at 60 frames a second. Every game has its own system in place that punishes players for spamming the deflect button, either removing those deflect frames entirely or doing similar animations, but with progressively less deflect frames as you spam. So if you're unsure of a deflect timing, it's better to err on the side of caution and press it early so that if you mistime it, you just get a regular guard instead of taking full damage. AoE attacks. The broadest category by far is area of effect, usually referred to as AoE. This is where games can get more creative. These can be explosions, poisonous vomit, spells, or an absolutely ridiculous barrage of massive lasers. They come in a variety of different shapes and sizes, but they all share one characteristic: the ability to apply damage to the player without the physical restraints of a melee weapon. This can be used to hit multiple targets at once, create a no-go area for the player to position themselves around, attack at range, and/or create attacks that force players to rely more on good positioning and movement than a specific roll or deflect timing. The concepts we covered before of behavior trees, openings to attack and heal all remain the same. However, these attacks are often given a startup animation so that the player knows it's time for them to start preparations for their funeral, to dodge the attack. When it comes to avoiding AoE attacks though, I can't give you a single trick that applies to everything. This is where the developers, but also the gamers, get to be creative. There is no one way to handle any AoE attack, and you can test whatever method works best. Think of good, better, and best ways to respond. Maybe it's good that you can shield something and take reduced damage, better you avoid it entirely, and best that you can avoid the attack while also gaining an advantage in positioning. Lastly, there is one input that we have not addressed, but it does have specific utility against AoE attacks: jumping. Not all games have this. In fact, many don't. But in games where it's present, there's some general rules to live by. Jumping often has iframes. Sometimes they only cover certain parts of your body, and sometimes all of it. Now you're already thinking, oh, why don't I just jump everything? Well, the reason you can't do that is typically those iframes do not apply to all attacks in game, only to specific ones that in some games are clearly marked, like a sweep attack in Sekiro, or are complete guesswork, frankly, like against certain enemies in Elden Ring's DLC, for example. I had no idea until I looked into the frame data that you can just be completely engulfed in flames with this attack, but as long as you're jumping, you're okay. Kinda odd, but yes, it is jumpable. A general good rule of thumb is that if it originates from the ground, is a low-hitting attack, or has some kind of stomp motion, you should consider jumping. And if the game allows it, make sure to attack with that jump. And now finally, the weird one. The one that probably causes more rage than any other: grabs. So in Souls games, grabs can't be blocked, jumped, parried, or deflected. Except this one from Sekiro, for some reason, I don't know. But anyway, almost always, rolling is your best option here because you will be in your iframes as that grab detector passes through you. So if that's true, then what the hell is this? Okay, it's not a great system, and sometimes they don't make it easier on us, but in general, this is what's going on. If any part of your character overlaps with an active grab hitbox and your iframes have expired, you will instantly be placed into the start position for the grab sequence to play out. It happens in Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Lies of P, you name it. Some cases can be more jarring than others, but that is what's happening. So, what do you do about it? Well, you've got to be within active iframes of your roll to avoid it. I suggest rolling to the direction the attack is coming from, limiting the amount of time you are in the grab detector. Do not roll with the direction of a grab. Also, quick disclaimer, just be advised, certain grabs are absolute bullshit. Sometimes they make grab detectors massive, put them on a boss's foot out of nowhere, and in situations like this, you can roll through the hand that is trying to grab you, but because the detector is so large, it extends beyond the hand, and you get clipped and teleported right back into it. These are great games, fun for the whole family. Well, I hope my tour to Souls games helped you understand a little bit more of what's going on and what you're going up against out there. Send this to a friend who is trash at these games. I tried to keep this general. Obviously, there's a lot of subtle details in the combat of each of these games, and that's kind of the fun of playing each one. All my other frame data videos, a lot of the stuff you saw with this footage is in this playlist. Just check out the channel in general. I promise you won't be bored. If you'd like to support us directly, please consider becoming a channel member. Check out the merch store, all that good stuff. But as always, thanks for watching.